Hey there, how are you guys doing? All right, so it's at midday after lunch. Is that what's happening? All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about why you want to be an entrepreneur. And, you know, it probably for a lot of the youth in the audience today who are thinking about starting a company, and I'm going to actually try and be quick because we're a little bit behind. So I'm gonna go fast. But it's important to think why you want to be an entrepreneur. Now, I started as an entrepreneur early on in high school. I was part of a program called Junior Achievement, and they're like, start a business and try and make money. So I printed T-shirts and sold them. And then I realized it's a lot easier than I thought. But now, having started a couple billion-dollar companies, I can tell you it's a lot harder to get to scale. So the good news is that you all have ideas. Ideas are, in fact, a dime a dozen. And for you, what I would recommend is really think about what you want. So now you're a little young, especially if you're starting out. So what I would say is, you know, ideally you want to center on a set of ideas that is going to be your life's work. But again, if you're just starting out, you can flounder around and test different things. But as I did when I started selling T-shirts in high school, that began my entrepreneurial journey. But it's always better if you can get closer to what you want to do with your life. So, because it's not only your life's work, but if you start working on something you're passionate about, it will also start to become your destiny as well. So, you know, a lot of people talk about pivoting and changing the ideas. Does everyone here know what pivoting is by? Because I can tell you. So there's a gentleman named Eric Ries, a really, really intelligent guy. And what Eric says is that you really need to look at building your startup like a scientific project. So you run an experiment. If that experiment fails, you try something else, right? And every time you try something else, that next attempt is what he refers to as a pivot. So I do think that you can pivot the things that you make. For example, if you make one T-shirt that doesn't sell, you can make another T-shirt that does sell. But if you're going after a big idea, you want to keep the idea the same and try different manifestations of the project. So there are big questions that you need to ask in order to get everything correct. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to start a company? What's really motivating you? Maybe your parents are pressuring you. Maybe you think it's a good idea. But really try to understand what your motivation is to pursue an idea. I can tell you a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to build a company and everyone's going to work with me and work for me and I can tell them what to do. I can tell you, so the boss is never at the top of the pyramid, okay? So I have a great story from today. So we had a big event, 250 people from all around the world. In fact, there's a bunch of people from around the world who are at the event. And the office got trashed because we had an after party at our office yesterday, really a barbecue. Guess who is in the office today cleaning up? Me. So now I'm the CEO, so you would think, well, why doesn't the CEO have someone else do it? Well, oftentimes, if you don't have anyone else to do it, as the CEO, you're the one that has to do it. So, you know, there are a lot easier jobs than being the CEO. There's a lot easier ways to make money. There are a lot easier ways to be happy, right? And there are a lot more fun things to do. So really getting that why right is super important for you when you're getting started on your entrepreneurial journey. So just to give you an example, this is what's called a 4-box model, okay? So if happy is down here and impact is over there, right? go work at Google, because they're going to give you a lot of money. You're not going to work that hard, and you might even have a big impact, right? Don't be an entrepreneur. Bad idea. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you're definitely going to be unhappy. Now, you're young, and as a young person, I think happiness is important. You can also work at McDonald's because you're young, and that will put you definitely in the unhappy and not very useful category. But if you want to have a big impact, if you want to change lives and still be unhappy, there is a role for you, being an entrepreneur. But I know most of the world's great entrepreneurs, and I can tell you that universally, none of them are astoundingly happy. But they all strive to have a big impact, they find meaning in what they do because they have a very good why. They understand why they're trying to do it. And in fact, if you understand why you're trying to do it, it does become worthwhile. While it might not be the greatest source of happiness, it will be a great source of motivation. So let's talk about what you're doing. So if you have a good why, you can have a good what, right? But the inverse is true as well. You can't have a good what unless you have a good why. So let me explain this a little bit. Let's say your parents are like, go be an entrepreneur, go be an entrepreneur. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. And like, what do I'm going to do? I don't know. And you do anything. Well, if the pressure to do it is coming from outside of yourself, right, you're never going to actually make anything good, right? So the pressure to do something in the world needs to come from within. And when that pressure to do something comes from within, then you're going to make something, the what, that's very interesting. So when you have a good why, you're going to have a good what. Now, my 10-year-old daughter is here in the front. She's not shy. She came to me about a year ago, and she's like, Dad, I want to make people happy. So I want to put hearts and smiley faces on everything and sell artwork to the world that just makes them happy. And I was like, somewhere in that's a good why, right? That's something she wants to do herself. And then how to turn that into a what is, once you have a good why, you can have a good what. So here are 3 questions to think about with respect to getting to the good why and eventually getting the good what. So think about your life story. And I know many of you are young, so it might not be a very long story. But try your best to say, okay, so what am I doing? What are the things that I like to do? What are the things that make me happy? And sort of write a story about that. Then think about how your idea or the thing you want to do fits within the story that you're telling, right? Because if it doesn't fit within the story that you're telling, it probably won't be very good or interesting. And last but not least, then think about, hey, how will my friends think about this? How will my parents look at this? Think about the legacy that this thing you're making is going to leave. Now, for me, selling T-shirts in high school wasn't really all that smart in hindsight. I made some money, and we sold some T-shirts, clearly, but it didn't really leave a legacy. It wasn't really something And I wish in hindsight that someone had told me to think about these things, because then I could have done something cooler, like my friend Elon Musk, who actually wrote a computer game. I would have much rather have written a computer game in high school than sold T-shirts, though I sold T-shirts. So let me tell you a little bit about my story after high school. So, actually, before high school, I was tinkering with computers, so I probably could have written a video game at that time. Instead, as I said, I sold T-shirts. I wanted to be an architect, right? So I was living on a commune in Arizona where learning to do architecture. I was traveling to visit architects and visit great buildings. This is what I really wanted. I eventually got into college. I actually dropped out of college, and I started my first company. This was quite a while ago, 1994. And then I launched my second company. And both those companies actually sold for about $1 billion each. So the first one was $750 million. The second one was just over $1 billion. So at that point, I was what, 28, 29 years old? And I had $2 billion exits in the 90s. So I literally was the most successful entrepreneur that I knew at the time. And you would think, wow, young guy, multiple billion-dollar exits, everyone would have just been really nice to you. No, I was treated unfairly over and over again. Because here's another little dirty secret of being an entrepreneur. The more successful you are, doesn't mean anyone treats you better, nicer, gives you more opportunity. In fact, in an event we were throwing over the last few days, a gentleman I know who also has multiple billion-dollar exits was just kicked out of the public company he runs and is now starting over. And he said point blank, I'm just like everyone in this room. And it's true. When you start over, it's like the successes of the past sort of are whitewashed from everyone's mind. So I wanted to give back at this time because I was frustrated by what was happening. My core skill is inspiring and helping people to do great things, right? I'm a somewhat decent public speaker. I'll be done ahead of time, which is good. And I wanted to find the best people in the world to inspire, right? Because I realized, hey, I can inspire a bunch of people in a room like this, or I can actually laser target and find the absolute best human beings on the planet to dedicate my time and energy to. So I launched the Founder Institute. This is a little bit old. This is a shot of Meetup. So we're operating in about 135 cities throughout the world. In the last 12 months, we put 44,000 people through events like this. We have about 7 chapters in India, but we're really in every inhabited time zone on the planet. We launch right now probably about about 6 companies per day on average. So we create about 2,000, a little over 2,000 companies a year. And I started just like you. Now, admittedly, I'm 44 years old, so it took a while. But, I did start just like you. And I made a lot of mistakes along the road. And I wish someone had told me what I'm telling you right now when I got started. So, you don't pivot the purpose of your life, right? The more that you can think about it now, the better it is for you later. And so just, what might kill your company? People always say, is it the money? Is it the market? Is it the model? Is it the management? Of course, there are a lot of M's. The answer is none of the above, right? Nothing kills a startup. You know what kills a startup? When the founder gives up, right? So you are the blood of the company. You are the backbone of the company. Your belief in what you're doing, your trust in knowing why you're doing it will keep that company alive, will keep that vision alive, hopefully for many years. So again, you can only succeed running a startup when you know who you are. You can only succeed running a startup when you know what you want, right? Which is why it's very important to think about that now. And again, you can't have a good business or you can't have a good what until you really understand why you're doing it. So when you get it all right, you might actually build something amazing. And there's no reason that a young person today can't build something amazing. I believe that anyone has the potential. You have the tools, the technology, and the knowledge in your hands to do amazing things. And really, it's just a matter of lining up your vision and your why with your what, and great things will come. So thank you all.